Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another Daily Marvel Snap video. So today we have a Janefoster Lockjaw Thor rotation deck. Now this is an archetype that's never like SSS+, it never feels so oppressive to play against, but it is one that always has a pretty decent win rate. It always hovers into the mid to high 50s, sometimes some versions do kind of creep into the low 60s. But it has been that way for several seasons now. This is always one that you can always default back to depending on what you're seeing in the meta. So the only thing that this doesn't necessarily do incredibly well into is potentially a Shuri if they hit their high roll, but now that Red Skull has been hit with a nerf again, it is much less likely that they hit just that impressive amount of power consistently. And you have the disruption that you can maybe do with Magneto to force them into capping out a lane early. There's just a couple of ways that that can now fall or swing in your favor. A Galactus list is always something that we have to be kind of cautious about. It is something that you see a lot lower in the MMR bracket. So even if you're closer to Infinite, depending on if you're in that mid-range of that MMR, you see a lot more Galactus. For me, Galactus has a lot of pretty hard counters, and so it's not one that I see all that often. If I am seeing a lot of it, then tech in something that runs an Arrow, a Cosmo, run a deck that runs those couple of cards, maybe a Polaris. Magneto, even in some cases, can destroy and stop the Galactus from doing what they want to do. And so for me, I don't see it all that often, but we have a couple of ways to combat it in this list still. So we have a Leech. Leech is one of those that if they get their Galactus playoff and they maybe Dr. Doom pulled our Leech, maybe they Dr. Doom pulled our Leech before dropping Galactus and then all of a sudden they can't play it anymore. We can also disrupt where they can play Galactus by dropping a Magneto. So if they wave into Galactus, then we can Magneto, we can try to block that 50-50 of where Galactus goes, but our most common defense or playline is going to be Leech. If you anticipate or identify that a Galactus is coming, you can try to drop your Dracula into the lane that you suspect the Galactus to be played in, and then you can just follow it up with like a Leech or some other high impact, high power plays into that lane to try to make sure that you give yourself as much advantage as possible. Be aware of the Galactus and Null combo, but otherwise this deck can pretty much go toe to toe with really anything else that we're seeing out there. And it always seems to kind of fit into that middle ground where it does decently. It's not one that is just incredibly RNG heavy. You do play to your odds. So you want to have some kind of deck tracker or be making mental note of what cards are left in your deck. That way you can play strategically depending on what you have left. If you want to rotate, if you want to opt to not rotate, or where you play your Jubilee, where you play your Lockjaw, and you really play to those outs and to those odds, and statistically over time, you're going to get the positive outcome as long as you're playing the positive odds. And so with the not so brief deck explanation out of the way, we are going to go ahead and jump over into a couple of games. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, first up, we have the second 7. We get some pretty good cards starting off. The Thor, great value for us. We could do Thor into Kiln on 3. Maybe we need to support it further with like a Dracula. We have the Lockjaw into the Wasp rotation. And they have a Daredevil. Ooh, so it could be Galactus. They could do Galactus over here, and that's really scary for us. Unless we leech them on 5. We could do this. We could follow that up with Dracula into Crimson Cosmos because I assume they're going to do some kind of ramp component. They're going to look for a way to either Professor X lock or ramp into Galactus, ramp into Doc Ock, something to be really disruptive. So we're going to go ahead and rotate once here. Ooh, it's a Brood. This is a Silver Surfer deck. This is not Galactus. We completely called that wrong. The good thing about Silver Surfer decks is that they don't do well into Crimson Cosmos in general. Flip into Jubilee into Sunspot is like so bad. such a low roll, but Dracula over here, Leech on 5, Dr. Doom on 6. Might be able to do it. I think really the only thing they're going to be able to play here is maybe Professor... Ooh, Mr. Fantastic is interesting. Maybe Professor X into this lane. They can guarantee that this one hits. We're going to do the Leech. They're going to do Professor X either here, or, I mean, if they did it here, then we could just skip and float. They're going to do Professor X. If that is what they're running, they can win this lane because of the extra oomph from Mr. Fantastic. But it does put them in a little bit of a tricky spot on that last turn for sure. If they Professor X lock here, it might be that we just maybe skip and float with our Sunspot. Maybe we play our Thor, we take the chance that it flips into Janefoster for us. That way all three of these are decent. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so they play Silver Surfer this turn as kind of a sacrificial play, which is, I mean, it's not the worst play. We have Dr. Doom. That's going to help us support here. We could potentially flip into Janefoster, which is going to help us maybe win here. Playing over here, it comes down to what Dracula pulls into. We have a couple of really good shots. Actually, I think it comes down to a 50-50. Magneto or Infinite would win the left lane as is. Chavez would lose it by 1. Thor would just absolutely demolish us. But for the additional 1 risk, we're okay taking it. Okay, so Maximus mid is kind of scary, actually. Wasp. Okay, Magneto. We do get the 50-50. We lose the roll here. We could have gotten an extra 7 in this lane, but it still wouldn't have been enough to win. So we do barely overcome their kill location. Sometimes we'll take a little bit of luck. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Asawira. And I don't think it was this list. I've been testing out a few different builds. And I think Asawira we faced 2 times while we were running a negative deck. Not on this account, it was on our main account. And I know we played them twice in the last like hour, but I don't remember what they were running. Cloning Vats is actually kind of interesting. We could Cloning Vats, we could Lockjaw. It's going to put a Wasp back into our deck, but then we can Lockjaw, Wasp in Danger Room, maybe X-Mansion. We get a lot of value out of this interaction. It will eventually put more cards than it's worth, I think, into our deck. Those negative or those low roll cards. The Goblin is interesting. I remember now what they were running. They were running a junk deck. So let's go ahead and pad at this right lane with our Dracula. That way we can make sure that it doesn't get capped out with like debris. I anticipate a debris, maybe in X-Mansion, maybe in Danger Room this turn. And so we're going to play Dracula to pad that location. Ooh, no, okay. Oh my gosh, we're going to rotate it. That was not the right play. I forgot about the Lockjaw. That's awful. I don't think I have done that. I haven't done that in so long. It's kind of embarrassing. Well, we now have a second Dracula in our deck somewhere. We're gonna play Lockjaw in mid, see if it sticks before we're playing our Wasps, and then we'll kind of play it from there. So the Leech, the Sentry in the right lane is pretty big. Unfortunately, this is a lost lane for us over here. Do they have a Valkyrie? I mean, we could Magneto, Wasp. It's not terrible. That's going to pull their Sentry and their debris over. We win Cloning Vats. We have a pretty good likelihood of winning mid as well. I think that's going to be our play. Ooh, so they double play in the left lane. We pull their Sentry. Had we pulled debris, it would have been a tie in this lane. But since we don't, since we pull the Sentry, we win the right lane. Mid should be, I think, pretty easy. Even if they have like a Dr. Doom, because we have the guaranteed rotations with the Lockjaw. Ooh, wow, the second Sentry is big from the Cloning Vats, but we do pull into Thor, we pull into Dracula. We are able to hold down and secure the win. Not a comfy win, mind you, but it is a win nonetheless. Let's go ahead and take the 2 cubes. We'll jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Fantasizer. The first location is Morag, which with this deck, a lot of times we're going to be playing a couple of cards per turn. So it's actually not terrible for us. We have Lockjaw, so we can do Lockjaw, we can do Dracula, and then we can rotate our Leech on 5, Dr. Doom on 6. Ooh, the Bifrost is also not great for us. What are these locations? Let's still do... Do we still do the Lockjaw? I feel like we need to. We're still going to do the Lockjaw. But odds are we just can't really rotate anything. Unfortunately, a Wasp here would be good. Oh, no. Okay, Jubilee's actually not terrible. We have a couple of low rolls that we can hit, but we have a couple of pretty decent ones as well. So we could hit our Thor. We could hit Janefoster. We could hit America Chavez here. All of which are going to be perfectly fine. The Bast into Nova is interesting. So it looks like a Hit Monkey deck. Ooh, and they help us out by clearing up the Savage Land. Beautiful. Exactly what we needed to see. Had we known that that was going to happen, we would have played this one a little bit differently. But we do pull into Chavez and then flip into Thor, which is beautiful. Very, very beautiful. Nothing's going to push over. So seeing the Bast, seeing the Nova, the Killmonger, the Angela, this looks like a Hit Monkey deck. It's not phenomenal. I wouldn't even say that I'm proud of it. But we're gonna leech them. We're gonna leech them, and we're gonna snap into it. Now, Leech is one of those cards that you can't just throw into the board and expect it to win you the game every single time. It's one that you have to use kind of strategically whenever you can identify that it's going to really disrupt what your opponent is doing and what their game plan or their strategy is. And so for this one, and knowing kind of the archetype and identifying the early cards that they played, they're going to want to flood on the last turn. So Mysterio, Bast, or Mysterio, Hitmonkey, Hawk, all of those like really big cards, they're going to want to flood. And so now they don't have abilities, and it's going to be much less impactful for them to do that. Left in our deck is garbage. We don't have any great cards left in our deck. What we're going to be able to do is do like a Dr. Doom that helps us here, here, and here. It's 15 power on the board. Right now we're winning overall. And so as long as we can continue that trend, and with them not having abilities on their cards, it's very likely that we would be able to do that. We do end up getting the retreat for 2 cubes. Dr. Doom is just, it's 15 power on the board. We were going to opt to not rotate it because there's a lot of chances that we would get worse than the 5 power that would be on the board if we don't rotate it. And so we're going to go ahead and take the 2 cubes. Let's jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Noogle, maybe? My eyes are real bad. Some of those O's look like D's. I don't know. What we do know is that we have Lockjaw. We have the ability to play into the Danger Room. Korg comes down, sends us a little bit of disruption, but we can eventually utilize that as a rotation tool. Let's go ahead and... Do we do Jubilee? That's an early Jubilee. Let's do Jubilee into the right lane. I don't want to fill up the Lockjaw lane, and knowing that we will probably lean toward the Leech on turn 5 as a rotation tool, I kind of want to play away from that location for now. So they do have the Hawk, which is pretty big. Wow. Wasp, Jubilee pulls into Wasp, which is our lowest pull, which is unfortunate. Very unfortunate for us. We're gonna go ahead and do Leech. We can then do like a Dracula, another rotation with Rock. And if we happen to flip into Dr. Doom here, great. Sarah reduces the cost of their cards, but we're gonna hit them all with a Leech, which is one of those that's so detrimental on certain matches that it just has so much residual value. You're not always gonna use it. Sometimes it's gonna be detriment to your hand. You're just gonna hold it and hope that Dracula does not pull into it. But other times it's going to completely disrupt their play line. So they only have one potential card, so like a Dino, if they happen to top deck it here. They won't be able to hit us with a Shang-Chi. They won't be able to do those big high impact plays, so Rock Slide, or whatever else they were wanting to run. We're going to do a Dracula Rock rotation, and we do get the 1 cube retreat. Let's go ahead and take it. We'll jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Jura Jojo. The first location is Atlantis. Not necessarily great for us. They're running a Thanos list, and so it looks like maybe they just unlocked Thanos. The reason I say that is because it's a regular background common border, so maybe they just recently unlocked it. Since we skipped, our stones are actually cleared already. Depending on what version of Thanos they're running, it could be the Death version. The Death version is probably the one that we're least likely to look forward to. And then the Lockjaw is also gray as well. Wow, did they unlock both of those? Like, today? Or maybe they just don't upgrade these cards. Maybe they don't play it very often. Maybe they've had Lockjaw and they just don't play it enough to rotate it or upgrade it. I don't know. We played our Lockjaw in the left lane. We're gonna skip in the right lane because we didn't have anything great to play over there. Let's go ahead and do a Jubilee, and then we'll do Wasp. There's a small chance, a 1 out of 5, that this Jubilee pulls into Janefoster, and then Wasp rotates back in, and so then we lose that potential to draw. But we have a 4 out of 5 chance that that is not how it's going to happen. Wow. And then a black or a gray border Mr. Fantastic as well. It is one of the newer variants as well. So they rotate and they pull into Soulstone, which is... We actually skipped showcasing the last... Oh my gosh. We actually skipped showcasing the last game because we had a lot of really low roll outcomes. Just the game right before this one, we had like I think it was a 75% chance to pull to flip into one of the cards that we needed. And we got the low roll multiple times. So let's go ahead and... Do we rotate Leech? I almost think we don't. I think we just play Leech outright. We can play Leech. We can rotate the Mjolnir. That's going to help us here. And then on the last turn, maybe if we have initiative, we do a Magneto to pull their Lockjaw. We could do a rotation of a Dr. Doom to impact here and here. It really depends on what this Mjolnir flips into. But we do play the Leech, so they're not going to be able to do a really explosive. So if they're wanting to do like the death version, they're not going to be able to do that. If they're wanting to have some really strong ongoing or on-reveal abilities, they're not going to be able to do that either. So the Goose, Power Stone, and Space Stone, interesting. And so they will be able to move one of these cards over this turn. They also get the Power Stone, so if they have Thanos, they're going to have a huge impact that they're going to bring onto the game or onto the board. We could Magneto pull their Lockjaw if we thought they were going to compete for this location. Left in our deck, we have 3 cards. We have Wasp, Sunspot, and Mjolnir. So we're actually going to play Dr. Doom not into the rotation. I'd rather keep the 5 here. If they have Thanos, they play that. We can outpower them with a Dr. Doom. If they have Shang-Chi, unless they top decked it or drew it from one of these cards, not great for them either. We'll see. They do move their Goose so that they get a little bit of extra push in the X Mansion or the Pet Mansion. We win left, we win mid, we win right. We'll take it. We'll take it by being able to identify the common play lines with this deck. We were able to position our cards in a way that was most efficient for us to win. So we will go ahead and take it. And that is actually where we're going to go ahead and end this video. Overall, the JaneJaw Lockjaw rotation deck is always really solid. But for me, sometimes depending on what we're seeing in the meta, teching in a Leech can be pretty detrimental to the opponent. It can cause them to have to retreat because they're not going to be able to have those explosive last turn plays. We have Hitmonkey. We have Galactus. If we rotate into an early Leech, we hit their Galactus. They're kind of drawing dead at that point. We have the Thanos. We have just so many explosive last turn plays, last turn abilities. We have the Wave, the Deathwave, or the Doomwave. All of those get really disrupted really heavily by Leech if you can find a way to play it consistently where it doesn't lose you too much tempo and you can get the value while still competing for the board space. And so with that one, we are going to go ahead and end the video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give it a like and a comment down below. And as always, this has been TLSG. Later, guys.